Friends, new VBB has arrived. Victoria Beckham Beauty recently held 20% off site-wide, and I had to take advantage. I knew this sale was coming and why I didn't go crazy throughout the year, although I did with a 20% off referral discount code. Thank you, Sarah, where I did my first haul. It was around February, March, and I just fell completely in love with the brand. It was a long time coming. I haven't tried VBB yet, and everything I've tried has just been remarkably beautiful. Even if I didn't love the recently released tint, I still think it's a great product. It's just not for me and my skin type. But what did you get, Alicia? I, of course, waited to buy the new Cocoa Pave liner and the final color for her Color Wash liquid blush. So can't wait to crack into everything. And if it's your first time here, hi, I'm Alicia. I love to review beauty, brushes, and lifestyle stuff. More of that to come. And I realized while preparing for filming, because I was just ecstatic that I was filming another Victoria Beckham Beauty video, I applied her blush sticks, which I absolutely love. I have on Playground and Mini skirt here higher on the cheekbone area and Playground near towards the center. And I'm like, Elisa, you have to demo the liquid blush. So I'm gonna take this off just so you know. But on the face, I actually have a mixture of the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation sample and a little bit of the Tier Mask Fit Cushion makeup. So I thought that was a fun combination. On the eyebrows, I have the Make Beauty Infinite Brow Pencil. And on the lip, I have Victoria Beckham Beauty on. Her lip liner, I believe, in number 6. Yes, and her lipstick in Spice. So I thought that was a nice combination. Alicia, we want to see the swatches, for crying out loud. Okay, if it's your first time encountering Victoria Beckham Beauty eye wardrobe refills, is because her brand is all about sustainability and clean beauty this, whatever that, where you can just buy a compact once and refills thereafter. So the one you see here is wardrobe. I believe the compact and refill retail for $75 and just the refill $50. I hope I got that right. If I didn't, the editing Alicia will make the correction in text. And Coco released a few months ago, and I didn't pounce on it because I'm like, it's just a bunch of browns. But I love browns. I knew I'll have an opportunity to buy it on sale, and I'm happy that I waited. But here it is, Cocoa in its glory. I cannot wait to swatch this. A few details about the product. We have a 24-month suggested shelf life. Thank you, Vicky. Also made in Italy. And the refills are lovely, and I keep actually the plastic cover because the other refills I own are Victoria and Bordeaux. Bordeaux had to easily become one of my most favorite refills. I don't have all of them, but the burgundies, sign me up. And here is the refill up close. I think it's time. Well, let me start from this side, because usually how these refills are arranged, the larger pan is for the color that you most likely will use the most. And here, it appears to be like a yellow tone beige with a light gold shimmer. Next, we have what looks to be, a rich caramel. This, oh my goodness, that has a lovely warmth to it. Very autumn, as you know. My favorite season of the year. And here we have the designated metallic. So you see we started with the soft satin shimmer, proceeded to a matte, and now we have the star of the show, this beautiful chocolate bronze. Easily can be applied all over the lid, or even to be applied as a liner, right? I know it's a metallic, but wouldn't that be nice to have a metallic effect across the lash line? But that's what we have the liners for, so maybe we'll combine them both. And the last matte here in the palette, this what seems to be an espresso brown. Ooh, that is absolutely beautiful. So here we have Cocoa in all of its glory. And why don't I take the time now to quickly swatch a few comparisons, dipping into Bordeaux to compare this more kind of medium bronze satin. And I think compared to the one found in Cocoa, yes, you're gonna have a lot more richness there. It's going to appear more coppery bronze than what's here, almost like a honey beige. And the dark brown, I suspect, will have a little more warmth than what's found in the one in Cocoa. Cocoa has a little more black in there, and the one from Bordeaux is almost like a a burgundy brown. There's more brown in the coloring, but I think you can see that influence in the undertone. And hopping into Victoria, this will probably be more of like a plum brown, maybe. They look similar, the one found in Bordeaux to the one in Victoria, but still the one in Cocoa has a little more black in there. And I wanted to swatch this lighter caramel shade from the Olive refill compared to what's found in Cocoa. So you see there's a lot more orange in there. Totally more warm than the one found in Olive. This is leaning a little more neutral, so that might be appealing to you if you don't want such a warm crease in the eye, but maybe you're all about that, especially when we put these to the test and demo the shadows on the eyes. Definitely going to get like an autumn harvest look for sure. Up next, we have the beloved, coveted VBB Satin Kajal Liners. If you haven't heard or even seen this product, hailed as one of the best formulated eyeliners in the market, I'm confident to say. There are, oh, this is like special. There's sparkles on the pencil. Let me see here. Longwear waterproof glitter liner. Did I ever buy a glitter liner? I thought I did, but this is quite special. Is this limited edition? I know I could have checked before pressing record, but here I am, just irresponsible. Coco Pavé. Ooh, the pencil has glitter on there too. Look at me trying to sketch with my left hand. Wow. Ooh, that's pretty. You definitely see the sparkle there. It's a softer pencil. I suspect that, well, I'm going to try to cross the lash line. We'll see what we get. I don't know if I'll use it across a portion of my lid. Let's see when the demo gets started what I feel to do. And lastly, the Vintage Rose, and lastly, the Color Wash Liquid Blush in Vintage Rose. As I had mentioned already, I have two. The first one I purchased full price over the summertime because I had to try this product. The second one in Flushed, quite special. It was gifted to me by a subscriber. Thank you, Sarah, because one of her friends wasn't crazy about the product, so she asked if I was still interested in trying this shade, and I was like, send it over, friend. So this was a gift, and now have the final one in Vintage Rose, which I purchased 20% off from the sale. And I thought this was going to be more like plum, just based off how it looked in the bottle, right? But this said it was Vintage Rose. I'm not entirely sure how well received in general the color washes have been ever since their release. I can understand people's apprehension, but I think, ooh, that's pretty. I can't wait to try this. A lovely formulated liquid blush, because there is a slight viscosity to the formula where I think it makes it easy to apply. And there is a roller ball here at the end of the vial, which you can place directly on the cheeks and then blend out from there. I found it easier to use a brush. You could use your fingers, but it might be a little splotchy in the application because it's so wet and liquidy that I don't think it will lay down as evenly, but it won't apply as splotchy if you use a brush or even prep it back of hand first and then onto the cheeks. Super. Now that we have details and swatches out the way, it's time for you to come in a little closer for these demos. Remove the blush. We'll also prep the lids for now actually, and using Linda Halber's To the End primer, which I've been loving for prep before eyeshadows. It is colorless, so if you do need to address discolored lids, evening out the canvas before applying shadow, then I would suggest you use something like the MAC Paint Pot or anything that has a base to address that discoloration on the lids. I would love to go in with the liquid blush first because I'm dying to see the shade in action. And my apologies, I'll show you comparison swatches once we get this blush on. So as I mentioned before, I like to press on the top of the cap, get a little swirly swirl on there first. And now, oh boy, wait, that was close. Using my Sonia G mini sheer buffer because this is my brush of choice. I was panicking a little bit because not that these set quickly, but you don't want to hang around with, liquid blush on your cheeks for like 20 minutes. Ooh, this color is gorgeous. Oh, roses get me, man. When they have the right undertone, it's just a beautiful, natural looking flush to the cheeks. Although I do love reds, my favorite, as you know, is terracotta. With the rose, that has some red in there because you see how it looks as a liquid, but when applied on the cheeks, oh, it just has a beautiful, lightweight, flushed effect. Now, so you saw how I applied it directly on the face. The other way I like to do it is to go back of hand first, and from back of hand, I'll pounce on with the brush and then go in with another layer. And this is the advantage you have over something like the color wash. You can choose the intensity of color that you wish to achieve. So this is more of like a lighter wash of color, a little more sheer, and here is a little more coverage, maybe like medium, but it is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Now the question is, which color do I like more? If I had to choose, probably, I don't know. I was gonna say the middle one. I have to look at the back of the bottle, bottom of the bottle, I should say, to grab the name. Ooh, but that's pretty. Now, I understand because of, there's like a little bit of plum in here. Yes, it could look bruisey-oozy if you apply too much. That I understand completely. But I quickly wanted to set up these comparison swatches. I'm gonna do it on this side. I know, living on the edge, doing liquid blush swatch comparisons on a white sweatshirt. Next is Flush, which I think is more of like a true cherry. And last is Coral, which is, as the name implies, more of like a coral, but actually it's more like a tangerine. So again, we have Vintage Rose, we have Flush, which is like your true cherry red, and we have Coral, which is like that fiery tangerine. All of them are beautiful. I just love the formula, and as you can see how it makes the skin look and feel, it definitely has a bouncy quality to the application, and despite it being a liquid and yes, ultimately more fussy in terms of application than even a cream blush, right? I think her cream sticks are easier to deal with because, you know, you could apply these back of hand first, prep it like I did with the liquid blush, and go in on the cheeks. But I don't know, once you get the hang of it, I think this naturally blush look is hard to achieve with blush, powder blush, and cream blush. And what I mean by that is the liquid, I think, mimics skin more effectively, and it just has a better resemblance to what a natural blush flushed effect will appear on the skin, looks like on the skin without makeup. Because it is a liquid, it just blends better and more seamless like. And yes, powder blushes nowadays are finely milled. I mean, gone are the days of dry, patchy blush. But even still, with the innovative formulas, I still believe there's a hierarchy in terms of product looking more natural than others. And when it comes to the blush category, liquid can't be beat. And what's fun, you can mix these together. I can mix Vintage Rose with Flush or vice versa, just to kind of adjust the coloring a little bit. But now onto the liner and the eyeshadow. I actually want to try the liner first and just see what we get solo from this shade. Now there is a cocoa shade already in the VBB Satin Kajal Liner category, but this almost like it has like blue sparkle in there. And you probably already know, if you have these liners, that they are quite soft. So what I like to do is, after applying, I let it rest for a minute, because when you go in right away to blend or diffuse, you kind of blend and diffuse away the pencil off your lid. To maintain some color integrity there, I let it sit for a bit, and then I'll go in with a softer brush, maybe not with Psycho Goat Hair, just so we can create that diffuse finish, but still have the color laid down left behind. And that's lovely. I like the sparkle. I don't know if I would use this for liner purposes with sparkle, but I agree, however, if you just wanted the eye look to appear as such with just liner, fun to have a little more pizzazz in the liner, right? Not it just be your typical matte brown liner across the lid, but something with more sparkle in the formula. Yay. But now I gotta follow up with the shadow, man. I have been waiting. I think I want to use a softer brush for this formula. You know, surprisingly, and going in with the pumpkin caramel. Victoria Beckham Beauty shadows pack a punch, especially the darker brown shades. And I am applying light pressure first with this warmer caramel shade, because look at that already. And they do have some kickback, which is why I don't pick up a ton of product at once and take my time in slowly building the color, because I think if you go in too heavily, it could appear just a little splotchy and uneven. But if you slowly build the shadow and use a softer brush, continuing on the lower lash line with that same matte, that would be lovely on its own. Let me see what this looks like now, taking that honey beige on the lid with a fingertip. So this will probably be one of the simpler eye looks I create using Cocoa. And of course, you probably have already assumed that I could go in with the dark brown, and definitely being careful with how much I pick up. Stamping along the lash line so I could get a little more definition here, some contrast as well. And you can see that color right away. And stamping it in this manner allows for better control, where you don't have to worry about creating a straight line, right? You just worry about following the sketch, if you will. And then you'll slowly build up that liner effect across the lashes. And there you go. Look number one done. Now, something I've noticed in VBB wardrobe palettes is that depending on your skin tone, you might have an inner corner highlighter or you might not. For my skin tone, I typically have to dip out if I wanted some highlight on the inner corner. I could use this shade. It's actually one of the lighter satin formulas that I've used from a VBB wardrobe palette. So this does offer a slight highlight effect, sure. But now, on our second eye, I'm going in with this bronzy bronze, and the metallic formula from the eye wardrobes are actually quite tight. They're super creamy, and I would use, as opposed to a softer brush applying the matte, a stiffer one so you can successfully move the pigments across the lid instead of them not budging at all. A little bit here under the lash line, and that could be a one and done look with the metallic for sure. It has enough body to the color where it provides a little bit of haze, some smoke. I think great for daily wear, actually, if you don't want a straight up smoky eye. And I'm taking the leftover matte that we applied on our first look here on the edges of that chocolate bronze metallic shadow just to finish the edges. Ooh, that's pretty. Now, this is where we could stop. I think this is the daily friendly eye demo complete. Now, if we wanted to bump it up, definitely going in with the darkest shade and still using my soft crease brush, gently tapping that color on the outer lid. And as I had practiced with the warmer matte, taking my time in building the color, and I find starting from the lash line makes it a little easier to carve out that shape you want to lay on the outer lid. And then once you've tapped on the majority of the shadow, you take the leftover through your crease. So the majority of the color stays on the outer lid where you want that smoke to take effect, right? You don't want the color to appear heavy on center of the crease. So that's why it's important to lay down the color first on the outer lid. And once you deposited most of it, you then graze with light pressure that brush through the crease and gently shape out the tip of that bracket. Now, I typically like to pull my shadow out from the lash line. This is how I like to wear my smokier eyes. You could keep it more round, meaning you could tap in a rounder shape and not use as much shadow, so you have a little more control over the smoke intensity. I also like to follow up with that same darker shadow on the outer fourth of my lower lash line. You could take it all the way, but I like it so that it starts dark here on the outer edge and then goes into that medium caramel shade. And we have From Day to Smoke, just from adding that dark espresso brown. Very nice. And of course, let's see what this does on top of the bronze. This bronze metallic is outrageous. I mean, Color impact is insane. The shine is beautiful. It's not dazzling because it's more of a burnished look to the metallic finish. I still think it gorgeous. And you could also pair it with Coco Pavé and draft across the lash line if you wanted a little more of that blue sparkle. I think it's so pretty. This dark brown is actually quite nice to work with. Is it just me, or is this dark brown like smoother than her other dark brown like shades in her other refills? My goodness, this is just, it's lovely. And in the same way, adding that color here on the lower quarter. And since we have the bronze metallic on this eye, we can now use this honey beige on the inner corner for some highlight. Why not? And maybe I'll use Coco Pavé on our first eye, because if we wanted to add a little bit of pizzazz and not necessarily use the chocolate bronze metallic, we can rely on this pencil for some dazzle-azzle. Again, I'm gonna wait until it just settles a little bit and then slowly start to draft the edges. Not a lot, because I want these sparkles to stay intact for the most part. I'm just kind of diffusing the edges so the overall pencil looks softer on the lash line. Let's apply these lashes and I'll be back with the close-ups. And here are the close-ups using my goodies from VBB. Again, the Coco Eye Wardrobe Refill, the Coco Pavé Satin Kajal Liner, and the Color Wash in Vintage Rose. Man, I have to say, out of all the eye wardrobe refills that I now own, Coco might be my most practical one. The fact that I can use this lighter color here, the largest palette, or pen I should say, for inner corner highlight, for all over the lid, is smooth and it has sheen. I hope you were able to see just like that nice sheen finish on this eye that gives the lid a little bit of a glow and some dimension. Of course, this warm caramel through the crease is, I mean, can't go wrong with that shade, okay, especially in November. This metallic, the tone of this chocolate bronze is utterly perfect, especially for my skin tone. It's not too warm, like not too coppery warm or not too cool taupe either, because I have this color from the Victoria refill that's definitely more of like a pewter. It's hardier, it's smokier even by itself. I can apply this metallic just solo across the lid, feather the edges without actually having to use a matte. I think this formula behaves quite well in you just kind of diffusing the edges so that the end result appears finished. You can follow up with the warm caramel or just lightly dust the edges with the dark bark brown. And of course, I'm happy that I was able to demonstrate how you could take this eye wardrobe in Coco from day to night, simply by just leaving out the dark brown from the outer lid and maybe just stamping it along the lash line for a little more definition. But surprisingly, now moving on to Coco Pavé, this is such a fun liner to wear as such, meaning hopefully you're able to see behind the lashes. The blue sparkle in the Coco base is absolutely beautiful, and probably a liner I would just use as a liner, meaning for my other VBB liners, I have a ton. I use these as like cream shadows because they're so soft, and I know Victoria Beckham Beauty already has like a cream shadow stick that I have not tried yet, but I use these as cream shadows, especially the matte ones, where I just go willy-nilly on the application and I'll use a finger to tap on the lid so it looks more diffused, an actual like cream shadow, versus something like the Pavé. I feel the sparkles will be too sparse and just separated. I don't know if it'll have the same effect as like the matte or even the, is it the shimmer? The one that has, will allow me to show you. Cinnamon, for instance. Cinnamon is a little smoother, or you could just see the shimmer there, but the effect is different versus if I were to go in the same manner with Coco Pavé. I don't know if you'll get the same effect glitter-wise, or maybe you would, because that's actually quite nice. The particles are larger, for sure. So maybe you'll have more of like a twinkle effect. If I applied Pavé in a similar fashion as I blended out cinnamon, I think I just enjoy how the liner looks with the sparkle there. I think it's so pretty. It's just a great way to invite a little bit of dazzle, but it be just a dose of it versus full-blown dazzle on the lid if you don't want to take it that far. And Vintage Rose. What can I say? I love this product. I adore the color science behind all three. All three have something to offer. You can layer them, cocktail them, so one can have where you could achieve like a gradient. Maybe you'll set up Vintage Rose higher and then invite flush closer to the center of the face. Same thing with coral. There's so much you can do with these color washes. I think the product is sensational. I know it might have been hit or miss for some. It can be tricky with the application. I get that frustration completely, but that's why you gotta get the mini buffer. If you have a stippled brush, I think you'll be more successful in applying the color wash, but the mini buffer is special in that because it's smaller, there's a little more stiffness to it where you could exercise a little more control over the blend, where it's not so floppy and flexible that the brush just kind of like disappears into your cheek and doesn't move the product at all. That's why this tool is just phenomenal. But I would say experiment with a lighter brush, or I would say, or another brush if you don't want to buy the mini buffer, that smaller brush from the Nikki LaRose MBK Beauty set that released a few months ago. The N20, this one here is phenomenal with the color wash. I think if you tried it with this brush, and this brush is cheaper than the Sona G1. If you wanted this one because the longer synthetic bristles move the liquid quite well, it almost grazes the skin and it doesn't pick up the product from underneath. That will lay the color wash down evenly and it won't look splotchy if you were experiencing like that splotchy look that liquid blushes can sometimes leave behind. I would say if you're having trouble with this product, get this brush for it. And yes, I had a few items on my wish list, but I left them there. I wanted to prioritize Cocoa in the eye wardrobe refill and the new liner color. I wanted to complete my color wash collection, so now I have all three shades. If I went back, I would purchase the lid luster in Velvet. Velvet is that olive color that I know I wouldn't wear as often as, let's say, Mink. Mink is the one I have here. And my goodness, this is, ooh, no room, the one and done. Ultimate one and done. It's cooler than the bronze metallic here, but you just can't beat that sparkle and shine that you get instantly, okay? I also have Tea Rose, which is a lovely light rose gold that if I wanted something softer for day, I can rely on this shade as well. Now I think I own 7 VBB liners. I almost added, I think it was Bordeaux to the basket. Now that I've used these extensively, I'm more familiar with the formula. I'm more comfortable using it overall. Now I want all of them. I know that's largely impractical, but that's why I've been using a lot of them like cream shadows, so I could just use these suckers up and not have them collect dust in my drawers. They're so multifunctional because of the formula that you can layer them. That's what I did the other day, actually. I layered the terracotta shade. That's what I'm calling it, but that's not the name. Oh, it is. Excuse me. Terracotta with the original cocoa shade. So this is the dark brown cocoa that released in the original line, and one of my favorite shades from the VBB lineup. It's just beautiful across the lash line. But what I did was apply terracotta first on the majority of my lid, and I followed up with cocoa on the outer corner. That was a moment. I love that combination, and that's what I've been doing with these liners. Don't think you can just use them as liners. Definitely use them as like anything, eyeshadow, eyeliner, eye smudge, especially the shimmer finishes and the metallic ones. Ooh, like the one here. And as I had explained before, because they are softer, you don't have to go in and blend right away like the Pat McGrath Permagel liner or even the Prada liners. Those set quickly, and I would advise that you work quickly immediately once you've applied them on the lash line. These you can let them rest for like a few seconds before going in refining, because if the brush is too stiff, the eye brush you choose to use, it could just brush off the product, right? You want the product to stay on your eyes. So that's why I would suggest that you just let the liner rest there, and then you go in to diffuse the edges and just kind of refine the application as to wherever you want it to go, and you'll be a lot happier, I think, with that outcome. Let me know, fam, if you picked up anything from the Victoria Beckham Beauty sale, and if you made it this far, make sure you like this video by clicking that thumbs up. It helps me immensely in letting the YouTube algorithm know that I'm fun to watch and will now continue to watch, and will recommend my videos to other VBB enthusiasts such as yourself. And consider subscribing. You'll never know when I'll be back on here with more Victoria Beckham Beauty Satin Kajal Liner tutorials, and you'll know when those videos drop right away, especially when you click that notification bell. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you, friend, for taking the time, but if it's your first time here, please stay, peruse some more. Maybe I'll see you in this video here. I'll definitely see you down in the comments for this one, and on here again next time.